make it through that entire list this weekend, unfortunately. Or could I?
On Amazon, a lot to read. It was rough, man.
It's true. It's true. Hey, that was a good episode, though. Last Thursday, people should go back. But I think we're going to top it today. What do you think, Nick?
Oh, yeah, this is going to be a good one.
Perfect. Well, Sean, it is great to have you on our show today, the first show of this week. It's good to be back. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Cordy.
Where do we find you today? What are you up to? What are you working on today?
I'm at home in Vista, California, which is about a 10-minute drive to the offices in Carlsbad, and just doing what we've been doing for the past 7 or 8 weeks, just making sure the machine is running, and we're planning to get reopened here, and probably now, almost as importantly, is working on getting all the products ready for next year. So lots underway, and the teams have been working unbelievably well. So together, so it's pretty exciting. It's a weird time for Callaway and everybody else in golf, but we're learning a lot.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it. I imagine this is how Dr. Evil would have felt in those movies.
Petting the dog?
Yes. We like to start with a hard-hitting, very serious question to get started. At least I do. Cordy doesn't like my questions, but I find that putting is relatively dumb. What exactly got you into designing putters to start your career?
I actually agree with what you just said.
I was just kidding, but okay.
No, but it's not dumb, but it should be easy, shouldn't it? I mean, I do all these events, Nick, and where we fit all these golfers for putters, like I'm sure a lot of the professionals that work for you. And, I usually start out asking them, hey, are you a good putter? And almost nobody says yes. And, I feel sorry for him. I just want to, you can't do it anymore because of social distancing, but you want to hug the guy. It's just like, buddy, I mean, you don't have to be strong or fast or athletic or actually particularly coordinated, but people really struggle with it. And so one, it's the easiest part of somebody's game to really improve. And when I say that, I think you're going to see the results can be pretty close to immediate. And as somebody who creates clubs, you have so much creative leeway with a putter relative to other products. And it's, maybe not quite as much with a blade, but with a mallet, mallets can look like anything. So you can really sort of exercise your imagination and creativity. That part's a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. Hey, to piggyback off of that, you've got putters have been around for hundreds of years. How do you go about innovating something that's just been around that long and everything's been tried with it?
Well, it's interesting. Pretty much you could say things have been tried, but things change all of the time. I'll just give you a little aside back from my old TaylorMade days when the teams were working on a new driver, which ended up becoming M1. The concept that I brought to the team was to this new way to make a carbon crown. And, everybody said in the room, well, carbon crowns have been around before. I said, that's not the point. The point is they haven't been done like this, and the benefits haven't been used in this way. So sometimes what appears to be something that's pretty similar, when you really look at the math behind it, it's quite different. And ultimately the performance that it would deliver or the way it would meet up with a golf ball is totally different. So lots of inspiration from the past, but if you use it the right way with new technology, you get totally different results.
So can you give us a little sneak peek into what it is you're trying to maybe develop for the next couple generations of putters that you have, or something that you'd like to dabble in a little bit?
Okay, that is a dumb idea because I can't tell you. So no, but of course, let me say a couple of things, Nick.
Yeah.
The golfers, for the most part, self-admittedly are horrible putters, right? So the thing that we see right out of the gate. So when somebody says we're a horrible putter, we are trying to immediately go into the mode of trying to see what's causing it. Is there a pattern? And there's 2 or 3 things that happen pretty consistently from golfer to golfer. But the number one most important thing to get people started with is their aim or ability to aim is horrible. And it's really interesting because it almost knows no guideline based on handicap. Now, things that golfers do, the way they aim and the way they have developed a putting stroke changes by ability for sure, but just their ability to aim properly is so poor. So anything that we can do to help that is a massive and almost an immediate improvement for any golfer.
Gotcha. So yeah, the triple track concepts and the different putters you've had and the golf balls. I wish I had one sitting right here, but my dog's asleep now. I really like that, by the way. I don't know how much of that was your, did you have a hand in, or are you looking to make a second version of that here shortly?
Well, I mean, it's been in the marketplace before all hell broke loose here.
Not very long, but
for less than a month, really.
Yeah.
And it's just starting to really take hold on tour. So we're super excited about that. But to answer your first question, my team developed that. So, and it was, it's funny. Somebody said, I get asked all the time, how long does it take? How long are these things in development? Well, we had been working with a group out of St. Louis on the triple track golf ball, that technology, which is called vernier hyperacuity. And it's basically the way the lines are. It's a lot more sophisticated than 3 lines, but the width and the color and the spacing and all of that. But it really gets to the meat of it. Is it really reacts with your eyesight, and how your eyesight, your brain are really able to kind of calibrate a pattern and aim it in a certain direction better. After we got the deal done, I had a meeting up in Chip's office with the inventors of the golf ball, and we decided we were going to do this. On my way back down to my office, which is about a 45-second walk, I called Odyssey Rollinson, who was our lead designer, told him to bring a 2-ball putter head. Luke Williams, who helps run the putter business with me, said, I want you to bring a straight edge and 2 Sharpies. He says, well, what are we going to do? He said, I'll just come to my office. And in about 5 minutes, we had the new triple track putter designed.
Yeah.
So that part of it, sometimes the most profound ideas are also the simplest. But that one we're super excited about.
Yeah, as am I, for just the average player or someone who might admit that they're a bad putter. Just trying to track ball with your current putter is a good start, but I think your triple track putters and golf balls together, just making those lines longer, will really help the average golfer. And I did hear from a little birdie that I was at a presentation at in Canada that Titleist may or may not be looking to do the same thing. So
interesting.
Your competition and what starts happening with lines on the ball.
Yeah, well, we'll see, huh? Yeah, we do have pretty good protection legally on that, but we'll see.
Yeah, I'm sure there are plenty of creative ways to try to make a golf ball look good.
Yeah.
Hey, Sean, what's your so if you're talking to someone and they say, I get my Sharpie out and I have one of those template things and I draw the nice big line on it, and I got all my stuff and whatever. What's trying to convince somebody that, hey, you should use the triple track? What's kind of your argument to convince someone to make that switch if they're sold on the line? They love using a line. What's the switch to the triple track?
Well, first of all, Cordy, if they were going to try to draw the lines on it, that actually, you should grab a beer, pull up a chair, and watch somebody try to do that. It's pretty difficult because it's a curved surface, and so the science behind it is it's the color. So it's the 2 blue lines with the red line. That part people can figure out. But to draw those lines straight on a curved surface is really difficult. And the amount of machinery that we had to design, develop, and then buy to be able to do that is incredible. But to your point, to answer your question, golfers will align 3 lines versus 1 about 28% better. It's just this. It's the same technology, the hyperacuity, or vernier acuity, is the same technology that they use to land planes on aircraft carriers, right? So, or the Navy would. So that's a pretty important thing to get right. And then there's a couple of things that happen with triple track ball and putter in use. It doesn't go to 28%. It goes to like 80% aligned better. It's actually like 88% aligned better. But the second part of it, and this is really sort of the hidden gem, because you have the lines on the ball and the lines on the putter that you match up, your centerness of contact, the consistency of your contact point goes up by 108%. So golfers are hitting it off the center of the putter a lot more often. So now if you think of, okay, do I have my line right? Then the second part of making a putt, especially a breaking putt, is does my speed match the line? If your speed is more consistent, and it would be because you're hitting it more in the center, then the degradation that you would get from hitting it off center, you're going to start to hit those lines a lot better, and your reads are going to get better. So it's a way easier way to putt. And guys, I mean, what we see is the real reason why golfers struggle with putting is because they don't really have a process. And when you watch tour players practice putting and go about their routine when they play, they are insanely intense about their process. Most golfers get up, bring a golf ball. They have no idea where it is in their stance, whether it's inside their left toe, inside their right toe. It varies by 4 or 5 inches from putt to putt. I see it all the time. And, nothing's ever the same. So triple track really begins to bring process to putting. And it's just a way better, way easier way to go about it.
Yeah, no, you've done some very cool things with that design. In your opinion, let's spin that topic just on its head. What do you think is the worst putter design that you've ever seen? Whether it's
that I've ever done or ever seen?
Well, how about ever seen? Now you can.
Okay, because I've had a doozy or two. I've had a doozy or two.
All right.
The worst one. Well, there's been some ugly ones, right? Bass Ackward was pretty ugly way back when. I've never been a big fan of the toe up stuff. Okay. So that part is sort of weird to me. And, and a lot of it just depends with what you grew up with. But, I grew up with something with a lot of toe hang and a lot of rotational force. And I kind of putt that way. So you get something that doesn't want to rotate at all. And it just feels like it goes back dead shut all the time. So not a big fan of that. But I have seen it help some golfers.
Yeah. We've been messing around. I've got an MOI measurement machine. So
yep.
I took, Uncle Jack's putter from the 80s Masters.
Absolutely.
I don't know how, I'd like to hear your thoughts on MOI, but the MOI on this is 7,000 grams. It's over 7,000 grams per centimeter squared. Would be illegal if it was a driver. It's pretty awesome. Yep. What are your thoughts on high MOI putters, similarly to this giant thing that Jack used?
Yeah, well, I think they're awesome. But I would say this, Nick, just like with drivers, you get to a point where, the next 1,000 points of MOI are pretty insignificant for performance. And in order to get there, you have to start making the product look a certain way. And typically with a blade, you get something that's massive like that. Yeah. With new materials, all kinds of things that we can do to get huge MOI relative to what you have right there without sacrificing the aesthetic.
Right. So at what MOI do you feel like the diminishing returns get too small? So
around 6,000.
6,000? Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense. All right. Another point you kind of hit on that one. I've got a putter here. This is one that maybe you even had a hand into.
I did. That was my baby.
Okay. So I got this one from a tour player. It was a putter, super light. So this one has a ton of toe hang.
Yep.
My friends at Ping talk about how the toe hang influences where the ball will go, but through their human testing, they're showing that people who have a lot of toe hang tend to miss putts to the right. They keep the face more open. I know if you're talking to your group, you suggest that the more toe hang you have, or the closer the toe is to the ground when you balance it, the more closed the face tends to be. Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Sure. And I would say this, and the most of the work that we've done on this, it's been in 2 buckets. One is our own research, and 2 has been working really, really closely with Phil Kenyon. And I'm sure most of your professionals would know who Phil is, but Phil and Mike Shannon are really the 2 preeminent instructors in the professional game for sure today. So I would say this, when we were developing, I won't go there. That's a long story. Let me go in a different direction. it would be really simple for us to say there's a law.
Yeah.
Correct. And it's just mathematical truth that this happens. But the issue that you have is you have human beings, knuckleheads like you and me, that get in the way of these things.
Yeah.
So let me go back. I'll tell you a little bit. So when we were working on movable weight at the other place years and years ago, 2003 and 2004, with the R7 quad, if you took a heavy weight and put it out on the toe, the golf club would work a certain way, right? That golf club the toe would rotate less, and that would be less draw biased, right? Or more fade bias for most golfers. And it would be that way for about 75% of golfers. And then you'd get 25% that would hook the hell out of the thing, right? Yeah. And it's like, what are you doing? Yeah. So what you get is you get the human element that really gets in the way of math sometimes, right? You know, and so, but what we see is very different than what Ping is saying. That the majority of people, and it's not a big majority, but it's the majority of people, when you get them a putter with more toe hang, will typically want to rotate it more. That putter has a higher rotational value, and most people will do that. The reason why people would miss to the right can be a whole bunch of things, not the least of which is aim. Yeah. But it's a whole bunch of things. But I would say what we've seen, and then working with Phil and Mike Shannon, we feel very, very confident in our position here.
Yeah, and I can see it going both ways. To your point, with human beings, you get all sorts of chaos. Like, for example, more toe hang, I could see the face opening more on the backswing.
You're right.
To do that. And then when you push on the shaft on the way through, you could actually push on the shaft and open the face more, or just having more open of a club face that means it needs to close more degrees. So all of that could have an impact to it. Or you could be a putter, just to go on the other side of the spectrum, that maybe opens the face, but then when they get closer to the ball, they actually don't keep pushing on the shaft, and then the face would twist more.
Right. So I agree 100% with you, Nick. And so what we'll do is we will go. We developed a machine called Odyssey Fits that I don't know if you guys have the board. We did it with More Putts. It's a great little device, and Phil is really. I call it Phil Kenyon in a box, because Phil was really helpful in that. And as we were developing that, you know, we want to do what's right, but our job at Odyssey is also to sell putters, right? I mean, that's how I afford these beautiful pink sweaters. So to do that, you know, I want these things to be as linear as possible. And when I was saying to Phil, I'm really looking to try to come up with a protocol that would go this way. He says, well, you can do that, but I'm not going to put my name on it. So then it was, okay, so there's a path, and it's sort of like I said with the metalwood, you either accept the change or you can fight it, right? Or work against it, how you just demonstrated. And most people will do it. So what we'll do with Fits, this Odyssey Fits device, it will have two protocols. You either can go this way and the decision tree goes here. So if you're an acceptor, then we'll put you and miss it to the right and your aim is okay. We're going to get you into something that rotates more. Yep. If you are somebody that fights that, then we're going to go the opposite direction.
That's awesome. I think golf needs far more systems thinkers like what you're trying to outline there, of a process to get fit for a putter than the chaos that we really have in putter fitting now. On sort of piggybacking off of that, if you could tell one thing to all the amateur golfers out there that would maybe help them putt better, what might that be?
Develop a process. So, and what I mean by that, Nick, and I, if you haven't figured out by now, I sort of talk in stories, but in one of these events that I did where, you know, we fit literally 200 people in a day, which is interesting. But I remember being in Dallas, and the club champion of this club that I was at came up, really good player. He's a one handicap. And I said, okay, Terry, let me watch you hit some putts. And he gets up there, hits the first one. It's about an 8-footer straight up the hill. And when he stands up to it, he's got the ball about, I would say, 2 inches inside the ball of his left foot. He's a right-hander. And I would say it's just inside his eye line. So it's a pretty normal position. Hits the first putt, makes it. And then I said, okay, are you a good putter? He says, well, I'm really inconsistent. I said, okay, let me keep watching. The next one, it's about 5 inches back. from where the first one is, and almost even with, so he moved his eye line also about 2 inches, and he hit it dead right. And I said, "Are you just kidding around with me?" He says, "What are you talking about?" And he said, "Well, hit another one," and it was all over the ice, right? So I mean, it's just all over the place. And so, number one, if you don't have the ball in your stance in the same place, that your aim is going to be off. The amount of rotation you need to have to hit a line is totally different. There's no way you can be consistent. And the biggest reason why golfers are inconsistent is because they have their fundamentals are, they haven't even thought of it.
Yeah,
So,
I totally agree with you. Sameness in golf, like all the way up to the full swing, is so underrated.
yeah.
I know I spend a bunch of my time teaching people just how to do the follow through and do it the same way every time. Now mine tends to be a little shorter than most. You're not over flexing your elbows and trying to see how far you can move the shaft.
Yep.
But the same thing goes for putting. Try to keep some of the variables. They don't all have to be the same, but keep as many constant as you can.
Yeah, agreed.
I like your advice.
Sean,
your stories are so much better than Cordy's. That was really good of you.
Hey, I have a question for you, Sean. What does your putter fittings look like? What does that mean? Because I think a lot of people have different ideas about what putter fitting means in general. So curious what yours is, your definition of that, what that looks like.
Yep. You're breaking up a little bit. Are you there, Cordy?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Cordy's question is really, how should people go about buying a putter? What should a putter fitting look like?
Yeah. Well, the first thing that we try to do is we try to understand a golfer's miss bias. That's the first thing. And we try to get golfers to be honest with us. Golfers are wonderful rationalizers, and they're optimistic people, which I love. But we want to try to get to the truth as quickly as we can. So, and what we're really trying to do is we're trying to understand a pattern. And then from there, we try to look and see what's causing the pattern, and then what we need to do to change things a little bit, to be able to create a process that will create a pattern that's more consistent. So, number one, it's just a simple conversation. And then two, it's not the same for everybody. But we start to look at what's causing the issue. If it's, if you got a straight in 6-footer to win the member and your buddy's watching you and you're nervous and you leave it 2 feet short and 3 inches to the right, what causes that other than nerves? And we try to get to the point, and from there we begin to work on it. And it's always instruction and equipment together. I'm a very, very firm believer that the golf club creates the swing, helps to create the swing. Sure. And that can happen in a positive way or a negative way. So we try to look at that, understand it, and then try to work with the equipment to really begin to make the process more consistent.
Well, that's a great first question for everyone at home to recognize. Which way did the putt go? Where do you miss? What's your tendency that way? How many people, Sean, do you think from 15 feet recognize that they have a miss tendency and can actually answer your first question?
It's a really good question, Nick. I'd say half.
I feel like that's fair too.
Yep. And a lot of the people will say, I'm just so inconsistent.
Yeah.
And honestly, that's a good answer too. So when that happens, the first thing we begin to work with is to make sure that we get you into the same setup and posture and ball position every time. Because
for that triple track putter and ball,
you got it. That's where a lot of the ideas came from. I'm at least, I did 1,500 to 2,000 fittings last year in 4 or 5 months, and as your guys do, and what you see. So you can help, and equipment can really help.
Hey, 10 years from now, what do you think will be different about putter designs?
Everything. Yeah, I do. Materials are going to change dramatically. The science.
So? What do you see changing in materials?
Well, I mean, the process has really been more. I think it's going to follow similarly to drivers, and now irons are sort of becoming more like woods, the way they work and operate. So putters have, for the most part, have been very rigid faces. And if you have a face that doesn't flex or move in any way, I would say the design and development of those products, for the most part, is an art project. There isn't a lot of science that goes into it. So when I say it's the art project, it's a really important part of it still, right? Because you need to look at that putter and say, I always tell people that my groups in industrial design, our job is to create lust. So when a golfer looks at that, they lose their mind for it in a positive way, right? And we have to do that with all of the products. So we've got to be able to move a golfer a certain way. Putters are still largely that way. But as we start to get more into faces that are in movement, to be able to impact and influence roll in a certain way, materials are going to change a lot. Strength to weight ratios and creating super high MOIs and smaller packages, all super important, really cool stuff. Shapes that we can recognize pattern with, like triple track and things like that. That can be done through shape as well as through lines. So it'll look totally different. It's going to look totally different in 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, no, I like your vision on all that too, Sean. And I've been to your plant a couple times to see the CAD design and then where you build some of those clubs. And it looked like they were doing some really cool innovations on the intricacies of what you're describing as the high MOI putters that are smaller. How
right.
To build those with some amazingly intricate cuts that you'd have to make in metal that they still can't even perform on a mass scale now. I know they're working on that. So I think it's
right.
Doing there.
And honestly, Nick, that's before we really get started with AI. And I can tell you, we're knee deep into it right now, AI and putter faces, and it's pretty crazy stuff we're coming up with.
Cool. I think that's a piece of golf instruction and golf putter design and golf club design that you guys are doing a nice job of. We're trying to lead that way in AI here soon. I've got a new project to probably share here in the next month or so about golf swings and AI. So
that's great.
Your AI and the supercomputers that you're using it and all the really smart people that work there.
You've
got some awesome stuff for sure.
Yeah.
Probably thinking like a question that I'm finding somewhat interesting is that I feel like everyone's putter designs have been massively influenced by a ping answer. Obviously, every OEM has a putter style like an answer to. Are there any other putter designs of yesteryear that have been, I guess, muses for you? Anything in particular come to mind?
Yeah, but I think in bits and pieces, Nick. So an 8802 is just so magnificently beautiful, and yeah, there you go, and really difficult to design well. We did one. Toulon Design did one, which we called Latrobe. I think for good reason. But to machine that, and I worked on that along with Roger Cleveland, worked on that a little bit with this, Austin Rollinson did. But to get that really right and machine it right, I mean, you can look at a lot of milled versions of 8802, and they are experiments that did not go well. They're very hard to do. And I think we did took a long time for a putter that we don't sell very many of. But that sort of connects you a little bit more to, in the end, we're club makers, right? And we're sort of Willie Ochterlony with a bitchin' tool set. But so the projects like that really kind of get you rooted. So that's one. But there's been some great ones, and one of the ones that I was involved in at the other place, the Spider putter that's a really cool design. Our number 7 is an unbelievable design, and the two ball you haven't really seen copied because we have such incredible IP around it that they haven't been able to. But we've got some new 2-ball designs in the hopper that I think are going to blow people away.
Cool. Cordy, put that up on Twitter.
I'm on it.
Get everywhere.
You mentioned weight of that. Which putter was that you held up earlier? You said it was super light.
Yeah, this one's 314. So I know that's not very typical now. What are you making most of yours at right now, Sean?
Typically between 350 and about 365. And that's, that putter that you have there, that was done in like 2002 or 2003. The average green speed back then was about 9 or 10. Maybe on the PGA Tour, it wasn't faster than 10. Now, Adam Hadwin told me, I don't get nervous on tour until they tell me they're 15 or 16. So as green speeds have gotten fast, really fast, head weights have gotten heavier.
What is your thought on that? I was talking to a few people, it seems like, but David Orr, the putter instructor, was talking to him, and he was talking about how a lot of putters are just so heavy, and was talking about how, putters were lighter, and that a lot of people are going back to a lighter putter, and he saw the benefits of that. Like, what are your thoughts on weight of putters?
I would agree, and if what he said was in the context that you just laid out, Cordy, I would agree with some and disagree with some parts of that. But here's what I would say we see. I would say that overall weight of putters has gotten too heavy for almost all golfers. Well, I say almost all because as soon as you do that, somebody wants one that's 1,000 grams. But if you get somebody that's pretty jiggly over a putt, weight happens to be pretty, that can be a friend to that person. But for the most part, what we've seen is this evolution of 3 things happen. And it's really been driven by agronomy, green speeds getting faster. Head weights and putters have gotten really heavy. So to Nick's point, in the late 70s, early 80s, ping putters were about 290 grams. Now they're 350 to 360. And grip weight in about 2012 changed dramatically when Superstroke got really popular. Grip weights at the time typically were around 80 or 90 grams. Now all of a sudden they were 50. Those big Superstroke grips are very, very light because they're foam based. So what happened is swing weights went from high C's to low D's way back when, to all of a sudden you got really heavy heads, you got really light grips, you've got a shaft that hasn't changed. So now you got a shaft that is effectively way too soft, and there's a lot of flutter there. And swing weights got to F3. It got totally out of whack. So that's where we came up with the Stroke Lab shaft, which totally rebalances it, gets swing weights down into the high D, low E range. Shaft is stiffer, shaft's a lot lighter. Overall weight is about the same, but the balance is totally different. And golfers have really, really enjoyed it. I mean, we literally have hundreds in play on professional tours worldwide. So that's been a very, very sizable innovation.
Yeah, I think it's great. And I see it all the time too when we've got a display of putters sitting out on our putting green here. The ones people grab at first, especially the worse they are, they tend to be the heavier, bigger ones. So
yeah,
you need to appeal to some of that too. The first 1 foot of how a ball should take off the putter and start rolling, I think is very insignificant in the whole process of what's going to happen. There are many ways to make that thing work. Can you identify how you would sort of model out, or you can feel free to disagree with me on that as well, how far it should fly, how much it should bounce, when it should start skidding. Just the over analytical process that's been used on that.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different metrics, and Quintic has got their own, and I would say that they probably understand this, probably better than everyone. But I'll speak more in general. What we typically see from really, really good putters is a positive angle of attack. So the putter is actually rising as it gets towards the golf ball. We see that somewhere around 2 degrees, give or take. Yep. So we see a launch angle of about 2.5 degrees or so. And we do want to see that ball getting into forward roll as it comes off the putter. Not crazy, but we haven't gotten to the point where we've discovered too much forward roll. We have for some players, but if you just looked at it in a lab experiment, you would want 100 RPMs of forward roll if you could get it, and then be able to control the ball speed and the distance that would come with that, and settle into a roll as quickly as possible. So, it depends, to answer your question, how long the putt is, but let's say on a 15-foot putt, I'd say it's somewhere of the, the first 20% of it. You'd like to reduce the amount of skid and roll in that first 20%, for the most part, as much as you could. But Nick, it's so player dependent. It's crazy. And I could tell you another story about that.
Well, you're starting to mess around with how far the ball's going to roll when you start changing those variables. Same thing with like an insert. Inserts are really nice for changing the sound that's produced, but an insert tends to be softer. So then you need to hit the ball harder. And when you start playing around with the different face variables, you can really alter how good someone is at putting or how bad they are. You can really help them that way.
Yeah, it's one of the things that we talk about a lot is sort of the humanization or humanizing performance gains. So when you start in putting, we try to make sure that we strike a balance or a harmony in the way a putter sounds, how loud it is, the overall forward roll, and the impact ratio, or the fancy word for sort of ball speed, right? And so if it sounds, I gave you two drivers, and one was really loud and one was really quiet, and I said, everything is the same. Which one do you think you're going to hit the farthest? You would pick the loud one, right?
Always. I'm taking that Nike Sasquatch.
You remember that? Yeah. But the problem is, in a lot of putters, the ones that are quiet have more speed. That's really difficult to control distance for golfers. Or so we try to get it, if like a milled putter, we tried to make sure. That's one reason why the Toulon design shaft was a little stiffer, because we could play with the impact ratio with that. So versus an inserted putter, the milled putters typically have more sound, and because it has more sound, I also wanted it to have a little bit more speed, so that the sound and the speed are in better harmony. Way easier for a golfer to correlate.
You're doing some very intricate and cool things in there for sure.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Well, we know a little bit. So one of the secrets is there's new 2-ball putters coming out, right?
We learned that. You have that on Twitter already.
We broke that. Is there any other news that we can break, Sean, or anything else that we should look forward to?
Cordy, you look like you're bulking up.
Cordy needs to take more steroids. We learned that early on the show. More HGH for you. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I just hope everybody can get out and start playing, and your stores get busy and golfers come in and spend the time they need to improve and get better and enjoy the game more.
And I appreciate that too. And if you can't get into a golf tech, I don't know if you've heard about this, Sean. We've been giving away free virtual lessons, which is basically a recorded Zoom call that you can make with a coach.
Oh, that's awesome.
All over. So if anybody wants to take a golf lesson, you just have to download our Golf Tech Clubhouse app, and you can schedule it right in there. So we're trying to help as much as we can.
It's cool. Very cool.
Awesome, guys. Well, Sean, thanks for hanging out with us. Appreciate it. Definitely going to try out some triple track. I have these around here. I didn't get the triple track, though.
Do you have one? I mean, you have 50.
I don't. I have these laying around here, but I didn't get any triple track.
Doing it wrong, Cordy.
The other day. I don't know what's going on.
I know somebody who can get you some, Cordy.
We have some in every center. So if you have a Golf Tech Open in Minnesota right now, just go grab a couple of theirs. Tell them Sean sent you.
Exactly.
Awesome, guys. Well, Sean, thank you for your time. We appreciate it so much. It was cool to learn. I always like going behind the scenes and hearing kind of the reasons and the whys behind the gear that we play. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
You're welcome, Cordy. Enjoyed it very much. Nick, thanks. Nice to catch up with you.
Yes, we'll do it again. Hopefully before the PGA show.
Yeah, I hope so too.
Happens again.
Yeah. All right, pal.
See you guys.
All right, folks. We'll see you tomorrow. Same time, same place.
See you guys.